Welcome to Sunday Springboard with Melanie and Kimberlyn Coaching. I'm so glad to be here today and to visit with you. We at Kimberlyn Coaching, we help women recover from and flourish after stress and trauma. You're making me crazy. You're giving me gray hairs. I can't believe you're stressing me out so badly. How many times do we say this, right? The traffic is stressing me out. Life is stressing me out. The pandemic is stressing me out. So many things stress us out. Well, if you've been watching my videos, you know that's not quite true. We have been learning several different things. Let me share my screen with you. Okay. So we've been talking about stress and trauma for so many weeks now. You probably feel like you've got it all down and you can't believe I've still got more things to talk about, but I do. Remember we talked about how to regulate ourselves in the moment. At the moment that we're stressed, it doesn't matter a whole lot how we got there, but it matters what do we do now. We learned how to relieve ourselves, regulate ourselves with some breathing, with some different kind of exercisings. We've talked about how do we get rid of those stressful situations when possible. Some stress is good, other stress is not good, and we talked about that. And then the one that we've been on forever now is how do we decrease our reaction to stress, because we realize that it's not the situation that's so stressful, it's our reaction to the stress. Our reaction to the situation that makes the stress, and it's this what happens in our bodies when we have continued stress, daily stress, that turns into trauma. Not that one major traumatic event like we think it is only, it can be, but it's not only. So one of the things that we've talked about is these core disciplines. These are concepts that if you apply these in your life, if you work on them daily, they will help you live more powerful, more joyful, and definitely less stress. We talked about becoming aware of things going on around me, aware of my own self. How am I feeling? How am I thinking? And then now we've been talking about acceptance. Why is acceptance so hard? What keeps us from accepting? We've actually talked about a little bit about why it's so hard. We're going to talk about more about that today. We've talked about what it is. We've talked about what it is not. How do we know if we're not accepting? Now, if you've missed my previous videos, you can go to my website, kimberlyncoaching.com. You can go to the Springboard tab, and on that tab, all of my videos are there. You can catch up, you can watch past series, and you can learn a lot more and understand what we're talking about today. But today we're going to talk about what keeps us from accepting and what happens when we don't accept. So we've already mentioned, I think this is one of the major ones, is it's hard to accept because if I say that I accept this situation, it's like I'm agreeing with what happened. I'm saying that it's okay. And it's not. Remember, we talked about that is not what acceptance is. Acceptance is just saying that this is what is, this is how it is right now, this is the truth, this is the reality. Maybe won't be here forever, but for right now, this is what is. And by accepting it, I'm not saying it's true or okay. So, not understanding what acceptance is a big factor in keeping us from accepting. But there are more things. So there's different things that we accept or don't accept. And actually, we're going to talk about those next week. We're going to talk about accepting ourselves, accepting others, and accepting situations. So come back next week. And the next two, we're going to talk about those two. But some more things that keep us from accepting is we don't want to acknowledge the pain that will come with acceptance. So I've told you before that I was married to an alcoholic for 13 years. And during the last 4 to 5 years, I actually allowed him to lie to me because I did not want to make the decisions. I did not want to realize what was going on. If he were to tell me the truth, or if I were to declare that I knew the truth, I did not want to move on and do what had to be done. So I allowed him to lie to me. So actually, that's in the next slide. So we'll come back to that. But for right now, some of the reasons is I don't want to admit that I was fooled. I don't want to admit that he is truly abusive. Don't want to admit that I stayed too long in this relationship. So sometimes it's we feel embarrassed. So we just keep putting the denial on to other people and to ourselves, more importantly. So sometimes it's hard to say, yes, that terrible thing really did happen. And I had blinders on. I knew in a way what was going on, but I let myself be fooled. It's hard to accept that. It's hard to admit that because it feels embarrassing and it feels painful. And then here, the next one that I was already alluding to is the idea that we don't want to take the next appropriate steps. So I knew that if he admitted to me that he was drinking whenever I would ask him, and I knew that I was going to have to make steps and I was going to have to make changes, break up our marriage. I was going to have to make major changes, and I didn't want to do that. So I just kept letting him lie to me, and I kept believing it, even though part of me knew it wasn't true. So maybe you don't want to leave the relationship, even if part of you believes you should. Admitting it and accepting this is the way it is may push you into that spot you don't want to be. Maybe if you accept what that this is the way this is and it's not going to change, maybe you're going to have to quit your job. Maybe you're going to have to fire an employee. Maybe you're going to have to use tough love with your child if you admit and accept, yes, they are doing these things that I cannot accept in my home. So when we don't want to take the next steps, that makes it hard to accept. And another thing is we don't know what to do with ourselves. We spend all these years, all these months trying to make this situation be how we want it, trying to make this person be how we want it, and it's not. And we accept and we say, okay, this is the way it is. I can't change this. I'm going to accept it. And then all of a sudden, what do I do? How do I spend my um, time and my attention and my focus and my devotion? Obviously, there are really wonderful things that you can learn to do, but at that moment that you're there, it might make you feel a little off. It's like I don't know how to be this person. So one of the things we talk about is pain. So people who have chronic pain, sometimes it's hard to accept it that I have this and it's not going to be fixed. There is no solution. There is no perfect um, fix. There's no surgery. There's no magical medicine. There's nothing's going to fix this pain. And so there's complexities here. We know that pain is affected by biological factors, things that I do with my body, things that I put into my body, food, breathing, the air that I breathe. There's things that affect pain. Psychological. We know that if you are in stress, feeling that stress, that makes pain worse. Social factors. Maybe because you feel pain, then you don't want to be around people and you back off and that makes you more stressed. And so we end up in these cycles. So it's just hard. It is just difficult. So there's nuances, there's intricacies of pain, chronic pain, that make it hard to accept. All right, now what happens when we don't accept? When you resist something, it persists. Remember, we've talked about um, if you try not to feel your emotions, you try not to accept them, it's like holding a beach ball under the water. And as you try to hold it under the water, it keeps popping up. So if you resist it, you're never going to get rid of it. And when you avoid something, it doesn't make it go away. It just keeps coming back in different forms. Sometimes it's the very thing that you're trying to avoid, your actions will make that thing actually happen. The thing that you're afraid of, the thing that you're trying not to happen, sometimes you actually make it happen by your actions. So if you don't accept a situation, then you start worrying about the what ifs. You start worrying about all kind of things in the future rather than living in today. Today is not fearful. Tomorrow is fearful, but today is not. When you're resisting, when you're not accepting, you're still fighting it in your head, this takes up a lot of energy. This makes you tired. Do you feel tired? Are you fighting whatever the situation is in your life makes you tired? The more you worry, the less serenity that you have. The more you worry, the more stress that you have. Now, these next set of slides are beliefs that stem from non acceptance, and then they also perpetuate non acceptance. So, if you don't accept, it makes these beliefs come along. And once you have these beliefs, then they keep you from accepting. So, again, we end up in that circle. Now, there's a lot of these, and I'm just going to explain them really quickly. If any of them jump out at you, if you feel like, oh, I do that, or I have problems with that, or I relate to that, jot it down or come back and watch the video again later and jot it down. And you can ask me, and I will either talk more about it on my videos, or if you want to talk about it personally, I would love to see if we could resonate with coaching. There's a link at the bottom of the show notes. You can schedule a time when we can have a discovery call, a free complimentary session to see whether it would be a good thing for us to work together. So there's a lot of them here. Just take a moment and try to see, is this something that I do? Is this a way that I think? So the first one is all or nothing thinking. Another way we say it is black or white. It's polarized, one way or the other. It's all good or it's all bad. There's no gray area in between. When you do this way, then this makes life hard, right? Because if I mess up once, then I'm imperfect and I'm bad. If I do something wrong here, then I'm lazy or this or that. It makes it hard for me. Makes it hard for other people, this black or white thinking. Another thing is overgeneralization. We also call this assumptions. So things that have happened in our past, maybe this happened once or twice, a situation, maybe I used to be the last to get picked for a team. So maybe once or twice you're the last to get picked for a team. Now you think I'm always going to. Maybe you apply for a couple of jobs and there's a couple of jobs and you don't get hired for them. So you think I'm never going to get hired. So when we overgeneralize, when we assume that because it happened in the past, it is definitely going to happen in the future. Jumping to conclusions. This is when we think we know what someone is thinking. We think we know why they did what they did. So we walk through the hall, we say hi to this person, they ignore us. We're like, wow, they are just stuck up. They don't like me, they're blah, blah. Well, maybe it had nothing to do with me. Maybe it had something to do with their mind was on something else. But we're jumping to believing that we know what other people are thinking. We know why something happened when we don't at all. Okay, here's some more ideas. So one is magnifying it, catastrophizing it. Something happens and we blow it up all out of proportion. So someone makes a mistake and now we think it's going to blow the whole project at work. That one mistake is going to blow the whole thing. Or maybe your mate does one thing and you think that, oh my word, our marriage is over. So this is making everything bigger than it is. The other idea, minimizing, is, oh, it's not that bad. We do that a lot when we're not wanting to accept the situation. We don't want to make those changes. So, and sometimes you think, I shouldn't. I used to do this a lot. I would think, I shouldn't feel bad about this because what about those poor people over in China? What about the people that they're way better, worse off than me? I have a home, I have a place, I have this, I have that, and other people have nothing. And that's good to be grateful for, but when we're looking at life, sometimes we just need to accept this is what it is. It doesn't matter if other people have it worse. Doesn't matter if other people have it better. This is just what I'm living with, good or bad. And obviously, we've talked before, even good things, even bad things can become good things. So we don't really want to label them good or bad, but they feel good or bad. They feel negative or positive when we're feeling them. So then we can also get into should statements. I should do this. I should do that. I should feel this. I should feel that. You should do this. You should do this. Or you should do that. So normally when we are using these should statements, these are normally having to do with what other people think we should do. Normally these are things we're putting on ourselves because we think other people want us to do this, or other people may be telling us this, but they're not normally things that we really want to do or um, think would be good for us to do. I normally said think we should do, but things that we feel like are good for us that accomplish our purpose in life. I'm not saying that we shouldn't ever do things that are hard to do, but we need to look at things and decide, is this what I want? Is this what I believe is right and good? Or is this what someone else is telling me? When we don't accept life, then we start having those kind of thoughts. And then when we have those thoughts, it makes it hard to accept. Another thing that when we don't accept is we label. We either label things, situations as good or bad. We label people as good or bad. We label a person as lazy. A person is late. We label ourselves as a loser. Maybe because once again I didn't get the job, or I maybe in college or in school you're not in the top 10, and you maybe you flunk a test and now I'm a failure. So we give ourselves words like loser, failure, um, no good, not worthwhile, things like this. And then we mislabel people too. We mislabel, and we maybe give someone a label that's not even true at all. Well, the other labels aren't true either, but mislabeling is actually when it's actually wrong. Would be racist, would be calling myself or you're a pig, or things like that are horrible things. These are labeling and mislabeling. Both of these things are bad, um, and they happen when we don't accept. Now, personalization. This happens a lot, and this happens kind of along with a couple of them on the first page. Is when we take it personal. This happened to me because of me. You were being mean to me. You don't like me. Your behavior was against me. We make everything be about ourselves. So many times, what other people are doing and saying has nothing to do with us. It has to do with what's going on with their day, their work, their job, their personhood. And it's not about us at all. So when we can stop and say, okay, yeah, what they said wasn't nice, or maybe they ignored me or this or that, but maybe it's not about me at all. Maybe it's just about something to do with them. That's accepting things and moving on instead of claiming it, believing it's all about ourselves. Then on the other side is blaming everyone else. You did this. You caused this. You made this happen to me. You're stressing me out. Again, it's not true. What's happening is our reaction to things is causing us to think, causing us to feel, and causing us to act. So we have to take responsibility for our own thoughts, beliefs, actions, and emotions. Now, emotional reasoning is where we let our emotions get control of us, take control of us. They hijack us. So we've talked about, and we're going to talk about this more, that emotions are neither good nor bad, but they're not necessarily true. So I feel a certain way. It doesn't mean that is necessarily true. I feel worthless. I feel ugly. I feel unattractive. I feel this. I feel that. They may not be true at all. And even if they are true, we're probably taking them in a way that is not productive, and we're making a judgment call from our own emotions that are making these not powerful for us. So don't let your emotions control your life. We observe them. We're curious about them. Actually, we're going to talk more about this next week. We accept them, but we don't have to let them control us. And it's when we're not curious, and we don't observe, when we're working off of automatic, that we end up doing this emotional reasoning and judging everything, making our decisions off of our emotions. Then there's this fallacy of fairness. Okay, so the world should be fair. How many times have your kids said, that's not fair? How many times have you thought, that's not fair? Well, the reality is the world is not always fair. Should it be? Yeah, it would be nice if it was, but it is not. And so if I am stuck in this idea that the world has to be fair, when something happens that I don't like, I'm like, oh, that's not fair. And sometimes I just spin my wheels. I waste a lot of time being upset because it's not fair. Instead of just accepting things happen. things happen that aren't good, that feel unfair, and then I can move on and not get stuck. Along with that is the fallacy of change, that I can make other people change. I can make other people do what I want them to do. This causes a lot of pain for yourself and for the person that you're trying to change. And it doesn't work. It hurts your relationship, hurts them, hurts you, and it just makes you again in that spiral of non acceptance. When you accept someone as they are, then they might change or they might not. But either way, your relationship is going to be better. Last set, always being right. If you don't accept, if you're a perfectionist, you may think I have to be right because it feels so terrible to be wrong. I can't be wrong. I have to be right. And if you feel like you have to be right, then you cannot admit that you're wrong. Again, this is hard on relationships because all of us are wrong sometimes, and that's okay. It's okay to say, I was wrong. I was thinking, I really, really thought that was right, but I was wrong. And when you can admit that to other people, that goes a long way in helping your relationship and helping them maybe able to admit the places where they were wrong. But as all these other ones, this comes when we don't accept, and it keeps us even from further acceptance. Okay, so heaven's reward fallacy. I am not saying that heaven is a fallacy at all, but this concept here is the idea that if I work really hard, do everything right, do everything perfect, then I am going to earn my reward. I'm going to get heaven on earth. Um, and so when that doesn't happen, when I've worked hard, I've done my time, I've done what I should do, and things didn't work out the way I wanted, if I have this um, philosophy that if I work really hard and do it right, it's going to turn out all right, then I'm going to be spinning my wheels again. This keeps me from accepting. And when I don't accept, I might be getting back into this thinking. The mental filter is when I just focus on one thing. So maybe someone is talking to me, they say something negative, and then they go on to say all kind of positive things. But I am so focused on that one negative thing that they said that I can't hear anything else they're speaking. So when we have the mental filter, we are just honed in and we don't take everything in the situation to account because all we're looking for is that one thing we're focused on. And then the last one is disqualifying the positive. So maybe someone says something positive to us and we hear it, but we think, they're just saying that because they have to. They're just saying that because they're family. They're saying that because they're my friend. They don't really believe it. This is the kind of thing where someone says, "Hey, I love your dress." You're like, "This old thing. I just bought this at the dollar store." And so we don't accept the positive things that people say. We don't accept them because we don't believe them. And then once again, all of these beliefs happen because we don't accept, and then they keep us even further from not accepting. So we get in spirals down. We don't want that. We want to be in spirals up, right? We want to, when we do positive things, when we think of positive ways, then we start the chain, the circle going back the other way. So it's all good. Now, today's talk was a little bit negative, maybe. We talked about what makes it hard. We talked about what happens when we don't accept. But I don't want you to leave today thinking, oh, kind of down because of all these hard things. Acceptance is great. It's wonderful. It will make a difference in your life. If you've already started working on accepting some things and you found that they have been helpful, please put it in the comments. Talk to me about it. Tell us all. I'm sure that if you've been working on doing this, you have had some happy circumstances come out of this because acceptance makes all the difference in the world. But we're trying to dig deep and we're trying to make them not such long talks. So today we did talk about a lot of negative stuff, but it's all good. I want you to leave here knowing that acceptance is a wonderful thing. It will give you more peace, more joy, and it will definitely keep you from being so stressed out. Again, I love to talk to you about working with you. Click the link at the bottom of the show notes, set up a time, and let's talk and visit and see if we would work if we would resonate to work together. Meanwhile, I hope you have a great week. I hope you are less stressed, and I hope you can look around you and be aware of things and be accepting of the things that you see so that you can have more joy. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye bye.